Yes, it is.
Take a look at your
Slow.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the Municipality of Monroeville's regular council meeting. Today is Tuesday, January 8th, 2013, approximately 7 p.m. If we'd all kindly rise for the Lord's Prayer, followed by the Pledge of Allegiance. Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done, on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our trespasses, as we forgive those who trespass against us. Lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom, and the power, and the glory, forever. Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Before we call roll call, Mr. Erb will be a few minutes late, so Sharon, roll call, please.
Make me look good.
Mayor Cinco,
Here.
Mr. Erb, Dr. Griesach,
Here.
Mrs. Drumheller.
Here.
Mr. Johns.
Here.
Mrs. Allison.
Here.
Mr. Duncan.
Here.
Mr. Ramsey.
Here.
Mr. Silka.
Here.
Mr. Dice.
Here.
Mr. Hugus.
Here.
Mrs. Worksman.
Here.
Mrs. McKinney.
Here.
Mr. Chufo.
Here.
And right now, ladies and gentlemen, again, this is another time that one of the most enjoyable times being mayor is called giving a proclamation, and for the second month in a row to our Gateway School District. So I'll read it, and then we'll certainly give her the appropriate congratulations. Whereas the Pennsylvania School Counselors Association each year honors one high school counselor, and whereas the Pennsylvania School Counselors Association has named Miss Colleen Tortorello the 2012 High School Counselor of the Year, and whereas her dedication to her students, Gateway High School, and to her peers over a 19-year career, and whereas her work with students on career development, life skills workshop for student athletes, created successful grief awareness programs, as well as being the department chair for the K through 12 school counseling department, and whereas her most notable achievement for the district is helping earn Gateway High School and Gateway Middle School the ramp distinction from the American School Counselors Association. Now, whereas I, Gregory H. Aracinko, Mayor of the Municipality of Monroeville, congratulates Miss Colleen Tortorello on this award and the dedication to her students and peers and to Gateway High School, do hereby declare this week of January 7th through the 11th, 2013, as Colleen Tortorello Week. Let's give her a very nice round of applause, ladies. Congratulations. Thank you very much. You know, all kidding aside, folks, this is really quite an honor for Gateway.
Mayor, we can't hear you.
Mayor, microphone.
You have to get it to a microphone.
They can't hear you.
Is that better? Come on up here.
You grab a portable mic and float.
No, it's quite an honor, and when you figure two months in a row, you know, you hear a lot of negatives, again, about, you know, public education, and you see two of our very own have reached some of the highest awards or accomplishments in each of their careers. So, again, to the administration, for your support to the teachers, we appreciate that. To all the students at Gateway, congratulations to you, Colleen.
Thank you very much. It's quite an honor.
My
Appreciate
pleasure.
it.
One more time, let's give her a Now, before we get down to the state of the municipality, if the school district folks would like to stick around, you may. If you want to go, I'll give you a couple of minutes to slip out the door if you want. That is certainly your choice.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
Congratulations, Colleen.
You.
And moving right along, it's, you know, as every January at the regular business council meeting, you know, I have to present the state of the municipality. So if you'll bear with me, Section 606G of the Home Rule Charter requires that the mayor prepare and deliver an annual State of the Municipality report to the citizens of Monroeville. Like last year, I am delivering this state of the municipality report at our January business meeting. 2012 for Monroeville residents has brought continuing economic challenges as well as positive outcomes. The number one challenge continues to be the municipal budget. As I stated in last year's State of the Municipality, 2012 would be the last year for council to patch up the continuing budget deficit by utilizing the reserve fund. Due to the past budget decisions, this current council now has to deal with one of three tough options. Either cut municipal services in the amount of $2.577 million, or cut some services with a small raise in the millage rate, or raise the millage rate to ensure that all services remain intact. Another challenge for this council is the OPEB retirement fund. Counting 2013, this would be the second year in a row, if not funded, that council in the amount of $2 million will choose not to fully fund this account. But just like the current budget, either this council or the next council will face some very tough funding options. As I've stated many times, you, our residents, need to get more involved and stay involved when it comes to the budget process. On a positive note, Monroeville business is growing but remains at a slow pace due to the economy. Some examples of this growth is the new UPMC East Medical Facility that opened in July, the old Sims property being renovated for profit outpatient clinics, Monroeville Mall with a new JCPenney store, and the soon-to-be 10 to 12 screen IMAX movie theater, which will open sometime later this year. And our CBB's continued growth and attracting new shows, which supports our local business community, are just a few examples of Monroeville's continued economic growth. As reported by our tax collector, Mr. Fulkerson, our EIT collections are up just over $100,000, which means more of our residents are working. Monroeville's unemployment rate is around 6.4% versus the national average of 8.6%. Our median household in Monroeville income is $57,156 versus the national average, I should say the Pennsylvania average, of $49,641, or the national average of $52,328. Again, these are just a few examples of the positive energy going on within Monroeville, but we need to do more if we are going to continue to compete locally as well as regionally. As we all know, competition in Allegheny County, as well as in Southwest Pennsylvania, is fierce to say the least. Mr. Silka, our manager, has proposed to council for their consideration a new economics incentive program to assist Monroeville in attracting new business development within our borders. And I will fully support this endeavor, as I am sure all members of council will as well. I, as your mayor, will announce another new program which will support and work in conjunction with Mr. Silka's new economic incentive program once we as council members, as well as the administration, work together to finalize both initiatives and then present it to you, our residents, hopefully for review and comment. In closing, Monroeville remains a great place to live, work, and play, but we still have a lot to do. As I stated at the beginning of this report, Monroeville's biggest challenge is our budget. As your mayor, I am asking many of you who are willing to attend our council meetings on a regular basis and to get more involved in the affairs of your local government. Please remember, we as your local elected officials have more of an immediate effect on your daily lives than any other of the elected bodies, so it is imperative that you get involved and stay involved in the affairs of our community, which is certainly your community. May God bless Monroeville and America. May we always stay as a free community and a free nation. Thank you for your time. Moving over to our minutes, again, council, you'll have those for your review at our February meeting. And we're going to go to the public hearing, and that's on amendment to zoning ordinance 1443 for solar I'm not sure how to say that. Systems. So if you would, it's a motion to open up the public meeting.
So moved.
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Would anybody like to address council on this amendment to the zoning ordinance 1443? Council, any comments? Is there a motion to close the meeting?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
I did.
I did all in favor. Okay. And then we'll go over to reports of our tax collections. Any other questions or comments, council?
We have no approval of the minutes, Mayor, for December 6th.
No, that'll be for the
That's
February
gonna-
meeting, as I stated.
It's delayed till then.
Yes. Any other questions or comments on our reports of our tax collections? Seeing none, motion on the floor.
I'd like to make a motion to approve the reports of the tax collections for December 2012.
Second.
Roll call, Sharon, please.
Dr. Griesbach,
Aye.
Mrs. Drumheller,
Aye.
Mr. Johns,
Aye.
Mrs. Allison. Aye. Mr. Duncan,
Aye.
Mr. Ramsey.
Aye.
Payroll report, any other comments or issues with our payroll report, council? Seeing none, is there a motion on the floor?
Move to approve payroll.
Is there a second?
Second.
Roll call, Sharon, please.
Mr. Ramsey,
Aye.
Mr. Duncan,
Aye.
Mrs. Allison.
Aye.
Mr. Johns,
Aye.
Mrs. Drumheller.
Aye.
Dr. Griesbach.
Aye.
And we'll move over to our list of bills. Any other questions or comments on our list of bills? Seeing none, motion on the floor.
Move to approve the list of bills as submitted. Does that include no, that's
No,
separate
we're going to do
from-
budget transfers separately.
Yep.
Is there a second?
Second.
Roll call, Sharon, please.
Dr. Griesbach.
Aye.
Mrs. Drumheller.
Aye.
Mr. Johns,
Aye.
Mrs. Allison.
Aye.
Mr. Duncan,
Aye.
Mr. Ramsey.
Aye.
And moving over to budget transfers, again, any other questions or comments, council?
I had comments, as we
Please.
did on Thursday, with regards to an $11,000 budget transfer within the library. It was explained that it was for a, I guess, webmaster. It was for, yeah, and I actually, what I did from that point is we received an email from Mr. Erb with regards to the explanation. And at that point, I asked, I actually contacted our current in-house subcontractor to see if any of the items here could be done by them. And they said we'd gladly assess it, and they believed, if not all, some of them could be. So my question was if, you know, if Mr. Silka and possibly the library director met with either Chris-On and Andy together to see what could be done with them. Have you done that?
We have not, no.
Okay, see, to me, I actually called them. I called, it's Kristen, and she said that and I read what they're looking for, so I didn't want to have to, you know, give my version of what it was. I read it, and she said we would be able to do, if not all, at least some of it, through them. This is a current vendor we have. We need to work together as a municipality, not separately. We don't all function separate. And if we have an IT subcontractor, we should obviously be able to utilize them. Even if the library would have to pay them, that would be an additional for whatever they have to do, but they should be assessed by who we currently use. And they are capable of looking at it. They asked me if I would like them to schedule an on-site visit, and I said, you know, I'm not, at this point, I just need to know if it's something that's an option. We're looking to be fiscally responsible, and we should do that. If they're currently working with us and we have a contract, surely they can add on and do some things for our library. They are our library. So at that point, I wouldn't be comfortable doing that, paying some company in North Huntington when we currently have someone working here in-house. And secondly, through the CVB, they just hired a company to redo their website, and they're a Monroeville company, and they got a really good rate at that point too. So I have some concerns of why, first of all, there wasn't a meeting with possibly our IT department, our subcontracting company, and also our current in-house person to even maintain the infrastructure. And I asked Kristen, isn't that done in-house? He said, yeah, I don't understand why our person wouldn't be able to do that, at least the maintenance, like they do for the entire municipality. So I guess I have some questions before I'm willing to hire $11,000 for an outside contractor when we can use our subcontractor and even maybe get a better rate if they would charge.
Bottom
So,
line is you're
I'm
asking to
not-
pull that up.
Yeah, I mean, I would not at this point.
So before we vote on that, I'd like to make a couple of comments. First of all, I'm going to read something that I sent to all of council today, and I think it's important to read it to everybody because it's, that way we don't have conversations going on behind the scenes to all of council, which would constitute a quorum and therefore a public meeting. So I'm going to read something that I sent to everybody because it's related to this. As a liaison, Christie asked me to cover this with you. I am in support of the transfer for 2012's budget. That's last year's budget. This is a strategic reallocation, not a year-end money grab. It also enables the postponement and possible elimination of the requested marketing job. And then it says, I will read this statement tonight. She attached some documents that she had sent to all of council that indicated why it was important for them to do this transfer. A couple of the reasons that it's important that that transfer occurs is because there's other monies that are contingent on us demonstrating that we have a commitment to the library. As you know, the budget for the library is $1.3 million. We spend $1 million of it. $300,000 comes from the state and from RAD money and from other grants that of NGOs. The reality is that if we do not demonstrate consistent spending of the money that we spend, they will withdraw their money. So, for instance, if we don't spend what we spent in 2011 and we spend less in 2012, then they will look at that and they will start to reduce the amounts of grant money they give us to fund the library, which means that the library would be even harder for us to fund. Christie explained this during the budget process for anybody that was in the budget, watched the budget process or was here. So one of the reasons that the money was being transferred was she had a webmaster last year. The webmaster, they've been looking at redoing their web for over 2 years. They've been looking at qualifications of people, and they have been examining this issue for a long time. It's not something that they simply decided to do recently. Evan is no longer with us, and he was the webmaster last year. He is no longer with us. As a result of him not being at the library, there was this additional monies that the state and the RAD money in particular would look at as us no longer spending or having the commitment to the library that we had previously, which is part of the reason to spend this money. I asked Christie why she didn't talk to our current IT situation. Here's the reality. They started this 2 years ago. We did not have personnel in-house that could handle this 2 years ago. We have a situation on our email that I've brought to the attention of the manager, to the interim manager that was here previously, and therefore I presume to our outsourced IT department, which is that our email doesn't work properly. And I've pointed out that the pointers that are used send a user to HTTP when they should be sending people to HTTPS. This has existed since before the former director of IT was let go. I identified it then. We also have certificate problems that have continued to plague us since before the former director was let go, and we brought in this outsourced entity that now handles infrastructure. And the reason Christie didn't go to them is because infrastructure people typically handle infrastructure. It wasn't a consideration as far as the new people go. And as far as our old staff, they were not capable of doing this. Therefore, I'll send this down so you can look at it. The HTTP is down here. You'll see that it's an error, and it tells you that it needs to be at HTTPS. I would presume that if they can't fix something that minor, that I don't know that I would support them on an entire marketing page on money that we already allocated last year. So I would support, again, and I would ask everybody on council to support keeping this budget transfer in for December.
Mayor, in response to that,
Laura, please.
I would make an argument that in the time frame that we have had someone who's mitigated a host of problems that, have been addressed, that there was the perfect opportunity to find out whether or not you had a solution. Why the meeting never took place, you could be getting an answer to the very question that you posed with that. The other thing is, for somebody who it looks at zero-based budgeting, I would think that just because you had expected to be supported with RAD money based on what you're spending, that wouldn't be in line with what you typically would advocate for zero-based budgeting.
But we budgeted this money last year. We already budgeted the money. It
Yeah.
exists.
But of course, it wasn't all expended. And so for that reason, and for the reason that we're trying to find the best allocation of leftover resources, and that is a resource, every little bit that we find in every department is a resource toward what we ultimately can reduce in our debt. That is an example of how we can help ourselves. And the fact that you have at hand several opportunities, because I'm thinking that several months have gone by where this meeting could have taken place. I believe they have staff meetings on a monthly basis. Is that right? You may have addressed this question already. I don't think that that's a good enough reason to just simply accept something, and especially in light of zero-based budgeting. We ought to treat it the same way. So I don't see any reason to
I do treat it the same way, and it is
$11,000.
I do treat it the same way, and it's the very thing that allows us to eliminate a $70,000 line item in the 2013 budget.
Council,
Very
you know what,
effectively.
if I may interrupt, Councilwoman Allison did put a motion on the floor to pull that. Is there a second? And then we can have more discussion.
I
after that.
apologize, I second that.
Okay.
The
Now let's
discussion went
open up
ahead.
for any other discussion. Mr. Erb, you were going to say something.
All I was going to say is that the expenditure of this $11,000 eliminates the need for a $70,000 fully loaded employee for the next 1, possibly 2 years. So to me, it makes sense to do.
And I say that you may already have that solution, but for the fact that it's not been explored.
But in-house, even if we use the one that's in-house currently, we'd still need the funds to pay them.
In which would need to come out of last year's budget, which is where it was funded.
So possibly the $11,000 would cover the in-house.
And it would, if it's in our general fund, it comes under our administrative budget item line. Correct?
Rather
Is that
than the
correct?
library.
Correct. Like what I said is, if you don't transfer it, it goes back in the general fund, and then you can pay the IT subcontractor under, I believe, isn't it paid in the general fund under the IT department, unlisted
Current
bills?
contract's paid out
It
of the
wouldn't be
department.
Right, so it would be paid.
Presuming that they
appropriate to do
don't
that.
charge an additional amount of money to do the work.
Now, would we be able to, let's say if we stuck with the company that they're currently planning on using at the library, would we be able to pay them out of the general fund? Because I see both sides of this, because I would agree with Mr. Erb that these kind of things are very specialized in, IT is not just IT. I mean, web design, we're dealing with the library, which, there's more of a push to do things more online when you have electronic books and things of that nature. So I don't know if it is a specialized thing that our current contractor can deal with effectively. And also, too, we don't know the costs involved with our current contractor. So let's say if the library knows that it's going to cost them $11,000, with our current contractor that we have in-house, would it be $11,000 or would it be $10,000? Or would it be $10,000 but not as specific of a, do as good of a job, not good of a job, but as specific to what they need So I see this from both sides, so I don't know if this is something that we can,
How does anyone know if you haven't asked them? That's, I mean.
That's what I'm saying. Is it-
Kind
I'm
of
just-
go in-house first. They've agreed to come out and look at it. They can say, I can't do this. You need someone
Yes.
specialized. They
So my
agreed
question is,
to-
can we do that? Can we set up a meeting with the manager?
They agreed to look at it, and they said, if we can't, we'll let you know. But the thing is, too, even if you have $11,000 to spend, and right now, this other person would do this for 11, because they're an in-house contractor, you might be able to get more from them for the library for that money to spend, because they might give you a reduced rate to do actually more. So, plus they would know it be here if something happens for maintenance, because they're here. So,
Well, would it be
And where is it
appropriate?
going to be, one other question. Where is it going to be hosted at the at point? Are they going to do the hosting for whatever we're paying them right now? I would submit to you that we do not have to spend the money, even if you make the $11,000 transfer. It still needs to be in last year's budget. All of what you said notwithstanding, certainly we could still have the meeting with them, we could still force that issue, and I support that. But we still need to make the transfer in last year's budget, because if there's an expenditure, I certainly don't want it to be a surprise on this year's budget. We already spent the money last year. We allocated the money last year.
Would it be appropriate, counsel, that maybe you table this motion to pull it and then just table it until you all sit down with the current in-house, if you would?
If you
approve
table the
budget
motion,
transfers without it.
You can withdraw, is what I'm saying, and then maybe make a motion to table that part of
But
the
it's part of the
budget
2000 but it's
transfer
part of the
till you
December
decide what
transfers.
you're going to do, if this company can do it or not.
I don't think you can unless you delay the entire December transfers vote.
Mr. Dice says.
Well, and I don't know if this is a question for the manager or for Mrs. Worksman. If we were to transfer it, like Mr. Erb suggesting,
Okay.
could the library potentially pay our current in-house person to do that job? Is it the
Yes.
same thing?
Yeah, I mean, you'd want to keep the money for this project within the library budget.
Okay.
Simply, whether we're going to use in-house or a contractor, because this is a service specifically stated for the library.
And it's a contractor either way, whether we
Right, so-
use the current contracting arrangement that we have, or we use a new contractor, it's still a contractor. We've outsourced the infrastructure of the municipality, which is a good thing. By and large, we've outsourced it. It's the management of our network. That's a good thing. They are doing a much better job than was being done. There are still issues that need to be addressed. At the same time, this is very specialized, and it needs to go into last year's budget.
And one other thing, hopefully, if we do use the in-house, they'll have the time to dedicate, like this entity right now the library has, to do that, because I agree with Nick. It's very specialized. Would you not all agree with that?
It is.
So you do have some homework to do on that.
The individual that currently does our IT, did that go out to contract? I mean, out to bid?
I'm not sure if they did propose, that was
That was before your
that was
time.
prior to my,
I don't know where they came from. I was just curious.
It didn't go out to bid, as far as I recall, because at the time, we had emergency situations where our entire network was open and exposed to anybody that wanted to get into
That's
it
true.
without having
Okay.
a hacker with mediocre skills could own the entire network, including our police department and all records. So at the time, a decision was made by the interim manager.
But possibly that could
to
go on,
immediately
like, Lowe's.
address this, and they had the ability to do that.
Well,
Possibly that could go out for bid.
any other comments? Because there has
It
been a
could.
motion and a second
Well,
to
too, I'd like
remove
to
it.
say, too, even if you're going to, whether this goes, there's, the CVB actually really got a good company that's from Monroeville, redesigning their website as well. So I really, I don't know where she got this, but you kind of need to, I don't even care if you're looking at our money or getting more money in, you still need to be as responsible as possible with it.
And again, I don't have a problem with telling her that she needs, and directing the manager to direct her to go and meet with the CVB person, meet with the other people. I will tell you that this person, the person that this money was potentially going to go to, has done work since November, October, I don't know which month it was, but to start fixing some things that were completely hampering our website and making it so that nobody could use it. and they've corrected those problems, partly in anticipation of doing a lot of the things that we're asking our current vendors to do. Recognize that we are a good customer. They're doing it in anticipation of a project that may or may not ever occur, and right now, it looks like it may not. We may force them to go somewhere else. I would still submit to council that the money needs to be spent in 2012 and not as part of 2013's budget. And so it's important that we make the transfer, regardless of what we indicate to Mr. Silka and what we expect the library to do in terms of these other discussions.
No matter where you spend it, you don't want to lose it. That's what's going to happen if you don't transfer it.
Correct.
Losing it down the highway.
Potentially.
I understand.
Not our money, the one that comes in with it,
Correct.
you're not going to lose the 11.
You're right, we won't lose this money, but it
No.
needs to be spent
It
in
needs to be spent.
2012
I
for their records. It's an accounting exercise right now. Do we spend it according to the budget last year, or do we spend it according to this year? That's really all it is.
Any other comments, council? There was a motion and a second to remove it from, so Sharon, roll call, please.
Mr. Erb?
No.
Dr. Griesbach?
No.
Mrs. Drumheller?
Yes.
Mr. Johns?
No.
Mrs. Allison?
Yes.
Mr. Duncan?
No.
Mr. Ramsey?
Yes.
Motion fails.
Motion didn't fail.
I did.
3.
Yeah, it did, 4-3.
The vote.
Okay. Any other questions on our budget transfers? We did have a motion and a second, correct? Yeah, roll call sheet.
Transfers? No, there was no motion.
That was just for that.
That
just
was
remove
the
that
item
actual
that, if
item,
there's any other transfers,
There's
then
no motion for
you need
the
a motion.
transfer.
Okay, we do need a motion on our budget transfers then. Motion on the floor.
I motion we approve the budget transfers for
Is there
December.
a second?
Second.
Roll call, Sharon, please.
Mr. Ramsey? Mr. Duncan?
Yes.
Mrs. Allison?
Aye.
Mr. Johns?
Aye.
Mrs. Drumheller?
Aye.
Dr. Griesbach?
Aye.
Mr. Erb?
Yes.
Okay, we'll move over to our vacancies on boards, commissions, and authorities. Do we have any appointments or nominations, please?
Yeah, I'd like to nominate Mark Dillman to the Municipal Authority.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Mr. Mayor, you
Yes,
need
roll
to do a roll call.
Roll call,
vote
that's right,
because
I'm
of their
sorry,
ordinance
you're right.
specifically.
Roll call, Sharon, please, on that.
Mr. Erb?
Aye.
Dr. Griesbach?
Aye.
Mrs. Drumheller?
Aye.
Mr. Johns?
Aye.
Mrs. Allison?
Aye.
Mr. Duncan?
Aye.
Mr. Ramsey?
Aye.
Any others?
I have a nomination also.
Okay, very good.
I'd like to nominate Mike Elko to the Parks and Recreation Board.
Is there a second?
Second.
Roll call, Sharon, please.
Mr. Ramsey?
You don't have to do a roll call.
What was the call? I missed it.
I don't believe there needs to be a roll
Yeah,
call.
that's.
Well, I know on the
It's not spending
municipal
money. The
authority,
only
that's
time
the
you-
only one, correct? And
Yeah.
all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed, ayes have it. Any others? Diane?
Yeah. Yes, I would like to appoint Ellen Goldhagen from Ward 5 to the Library Board.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed, ayes have it. Any other nominations or appointments?
Yes, would like to appoint Senator Jim Brewster to the Convention or Visitors Bureau.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, ayes have it. Any others, Diane?
Yes. I would like to appoint Lisa Hawley to the Convention or Visitors Bureau.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, ayes have it. Any other, Diane?
Yeah, Mayor, at this time, we received 2 resignations from the board, and we have to vote on them. So at this point, I talked to Bruce, it'd be appropriate at this point, while we're
Sure.
doing this. We received a letter from Mr. Donald Schultz. He will be moving, I believe, to the Waterfront
Yes.
Hotel. So he's resigning his position on the Convention or Visitors Bureau, so we need to accept it. So,
Motion on the floor to accept that resignation from Mr. Schultz.
Second.
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 All in favor?
Aye.
and I actually have I'm sorry,
ahead.
go ahead.
Go ahead.
I actually have another resignation. It's from the board president. Mr. Sean Logan has resigned from the Convention or Visitors Bureau.
Is there a second? Or a motion on the floor to accept, rather?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, ayes have it. Anything else, Diane?
Yes, and I'm sure the resignation of Sean Logan from the board has piqued some curiosity, but it comes with some positive news. At the last board meeting, Sean was unanimously appointed as the CVB's Executive Director CEO. This position has been vacant for approximately, probably about a year and a half, and it was filled with an interim for the past 6 months prior to it being vacant. As the board president, he has actually been functioning as the interim director since the parting of the former one, so there's basically no transition period needed. We all know of Sean's political career and his longstanding commitment to the municipality, so he's able to perform the functions of the lobbyist for the CVB as well, and has rolled these right into his duties. He has served on the board for the last 5 years and has always served as president, as elected by the board, working closely with the executive director. He is the longest-serving member of the Allegheny County Sports and Exhibition Authority, which owns the David L. Lawrence Convention Center, Heinz Field, PNC Park, and the Console Center. And his experience in this arena, no pun intended, is extensive, and if anyone has ever watched him function in this capacity, you'd agree that his enthusiasm and dedication is obvious, and he may just have found his true passion. Although it may be something to do with the raves that the convention center puts on, but I'm not really sure. I'm just kidding. I am sure all of council joins me in extending him congratulations and much success in his new position. Thank you.
Well, congratulations to Sean. I'm sure everybody feels that way. Anything else for us, Diane?
I'm good. Thank
You're good now. Any other appointments
Yes,
or
Mayor.
nominations, please?
I would like to appoint to the Cable TV Advisory Board from the Second Ward, Carmen Saper.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it. Any others, Nick?
Yes, sir. I would like to appoint Bonnie Sanford to the Recreation and Parks Advisory Board from the Second Ward.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it. Nick, anybody else?
One more, Mayor. To the Planning Commission, I would like to appoint Darren Morganti from the Second Ward.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it. Again, one more time. Any other appointments or
Yes,
nominations?
Mr. Mayor.
Please.
I would like to appoint Virginia Finnegan to the Monroeville Finance Authority.
And that's for how long is that appointment?
That's a 5-year term.
5-year term. Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it.
Mayor, I have one more here.
Sure.
I would like to appoint Edward Deal to Ward 4 for the Planning Commission.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it. One more time. Yes, Clarence.
Nomination for Dave Palmero for the zoning hearing board.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Ayes have it. One more time, council. Any other appointments or nominations? Thank you, and I'm very pleased that we have so many residents stepping up and filling our vacancies. That's very good. We'll move over to our public comment on agenda items only. Agenda items only. This is your time to address council on agenda items only, if you would, please. Come on up. I'm sorry? You certainly can address
There's no
us.
budget hearing today. These are budget
There's not really a
items.
budget. Well, it's an agenda item.
There's no budget hearing, is there?
There's no hearing.
He said on the budget
This be
item.
the appropriate time.
Yeah.
Says on agenda items, and then
That's a
budget's
budget
on the
item.
agenda. Yeah. It's on the agenda.
It's dealing with the $64,000 that's on the budget for...
Please state your name for the
My name is
record.
Pat Fulkerson. I'm the tax collector of Monroeville. And I want to address the $64,000 question that is on the budget. And so
You gotta
that's
admit,
why-
that's funny, Pat.
I know that. And before I start...
actually 64,860.
Yeah, I know. Before I start, though, I'm a little disturbed because I got an email from the manager, and I want to put a disclaimer on it. And because he assumed something, I guess that, you know what the assumes mean. And he says there will be an important conversation in the morning. I do not report to the manager. Let's make this all clear now. I am an elected officer in Monroeville.
As it
Not-
relates to being the
I also have 511 taxes, which council gave me a contract on. Also in the contract, I report to council and only to council. I do not report to the manager on 511. So let's get that all clear. It's in the contracts, it's an ordinance. The ordinance reads, the reason I get compensation for it is that's how they set it up, but it's a contract. And I report to council, and that's the only place I report to.
Okay, Pat, go ahead if you
All
would,
right,
please.
I cleared that up, and I expect a little apology tomorrow on this.
It's not, we'll clear it up later, but this isn't the time and the place.
No, it is the time and place. Let's deal with it. It is the time and place. What's your concerns?
Have you ever been evaluated by the municipal manager?
Oh, I have, but I only do it because.
Under what section? Under 511 taxes that your department has?
No, that's not true. The only reason I am involved with 511, are you saying that are you going to fire me right now?
You know what?
You're going to fire me right now?
I said
You know what, I'm
this
gonna,
is the
I'm
place.
gonna,
No, I'm not. I'm going to deal with it right now.
no, you know what, Mr. Fulkerson,
Yes.
you know what, I think we should probably, and I appreciate your tenacity on that issue as well as Mr. Silka's, but I think the appropriate time to talk about personnel issues would be
It isn't a personnel,
privately.
it's a contract issue.
Well, a contract issue should be done with, the two of you with Mr. Dice.
Well,
so
he
you can get that
presented it up,
straight.
and he presented, I think, when he presented this to me as an email, was wrong.
Well, again, let's
Let's
get back to the 64,000.
All right, I also want to, before we start, I want the assistant tax collector be exonerated from the insubordination. Well, because it's addressed. He says, Pat and Liz, I assume I'm going to be briefed on your presentation today, so to avoid an insubordination conversation in the morning. Now, I don't want Liz to be involved because it isn't, I'm her boss, and I told her that I will deal with it.
Again, I think that would be a conversation for the three of you tomorrow morning.
I'm not going to have a conversation with you. I deal with counsel. That's my contract.
Go ahead, Mr. Fulkerson.
Thank you.
Present your issue. Thank you, Pat. Thank you, sir. I was going to say I'll share mine with you if you need it. Thank you, sir.
All right.
Go ahead.
As we start, the $64,000 question was the expenditures that they said that they would save if they lose one clerk from Mr. Bernard Herbs in his budget reduction.
Actually, it's not, to be clear, sir,
Yes,
it's number 7 on page 3 in
by the alternative,
the
yeah,
2013 budget.
that is correct.
So it's page 7.
I understand
Page
that.
3, number 7. It's not according to me.
It's according to
page
them.
3.
But you presented it.
Number 7.
Yeah, but you presented it as an alternative.
Just to address your comments to me there, Mr. Fulkerson, please.
All right. First of all, I have to go by the bullet points that I have already presented to you. The fixed cost remains whether or not the department collects all 511 taxes or some of them. Auditing, second point, auditing is not a service included in the contract offered by outside firms. Third, local service tax earn income tax related heavily to the business tax. Fourth, and as we go through these, if you have questions, please speak up. Act 32 transition has been smooth or proven to be any windfall at all. Why would you take a huge risk creating more transition costs and chaos for little if no savings? 3 positions have already been eliminated due to Act 32 in my department. Salary expenditures should be offset by about $55,000. We have asked Susan Workman to do that. That is the reimbursement for the employees in my department that is paid by the school district. A year since 2 positions are reimbursed by Gateway School District, which is not reflected as an offset to the tax department expenditures. Since taxes due dates overlaps, all 4 tax office remaining workers answer phones, service customers, eliminate another clerk position will cause the remaining staff to work overtime around due dates. Before deciding to switch tax collectors for the local service taxes or the delinquent earned income tax, consider notification process, deadline to notify the Commonwealth of PA, employers, and other collection firms sending claims and payments. The cost of mutual conversion files to track payments, history, refunds, and return files. The contract currently in place with Wilkins Township, Gateway School District, and Pitcairn. The convenience for the tax office for the taxpayers. The operating cost to run the department is now extremely competitive to an outside collector. 2013 examination of the tax department budget. Tax department registered at $14 million. Tax department expenditures $343,000. It comes out of a percentage of 2%. That is what most people are at, about 2%. Even if the outside collectors would match the 2% local service tax, the fee would not include any auditing service currently performed by the tax office and may add or cost for postage or printing similar to the Act 32 contract, which has no budget restraints for postage or printing costs. The current cost Berkheimer charged to collect delinquent earned income tax is greater than the 2%. The tax department costs to keep it in-house. Now, I haven't broken down what was going to be saved and what's going to cost us when we eliminate the clerk. First of all, we get 2%. They charge 2%. This is an outside firm similar to Keystone. They would cost you $24,600.
$24,378, according to page 9 in the...
Well, I kind of, you probably are right.
It's probably because 2% versus.
It doesn't matter.
It's in the budget.
He's rounding.
1.99.
I rounded it off, and he rounded it to the exact.
It's 1.99.
Right.
I'm just using, again, it's page 9.
Yeah.
B.
And delinquent earned income tax at 10% from Berkheimer is $30,000. Elimination of commission revenue from the
No,
from the
delinquent
entity.
income tax would be $17,400.
Why is that?
5.8%.
You're going to 8%?
5.8%, $17,400.
All right.
That's what the budget says.
Elimination of the commission reserves from the entities, from what we have already collected. You have that, $15,004.
No, he doesn't have that in here.
All right. Total, our subtotal is about $70,000. Elimination of costs to take one current tax position is $64,000 that you were going to take out. So we have an additional cost of $5,500. So basically, it's zero.
Except that there's no benefits that we have to pay to a,
No, the $64,000 is the benefits included.
no, it doesn't, but there's
Yeah,
also,
yeah.
there's also OPEB costs.
That
and
should be
additional-
just coming to the chair, guys. You're
Okay.
we're getting
The
out here and-
$64,000 includes the benefit. The clerks doesn't make $64,000 in Monroeville. You might think so, but it doesn't.
Mayor,
Yes,
I have a question from Mr. Fulkerson.
please.
In your 7th bullet down there, and you're mentioning again over the clerk
Yeah.
position, what gives you reason to think that it is a clerk position that you are discussing?
I assume, there's only 2 clerks left.
Well, what-
Where would
what-
you say?
What,
what
no,
would you-
my question is,
Well-
what are you talking about with that figure? Are you actually, with 2 supervisors and 2 full-time equivalents, talking about a clerk position? Are we with that figure? I just need to clarify that.
First of all, the assistant tax collector is not a supervisor. She does business privilege tax, and she does a mercantile tax. She brings that's a full-time job. That's not a clerk's job. That person works on one job.
I'm trying to distinguish clerks from non-clerks.
Yeah,
So would you
yeah.
say 2 and 2?
No, two. Two clerks,
2 clerks.
and I, an
Yeah.
elected officer.
Okay, but the question remains, the figure that you're using, what constitute it being in the form of
All right,
that
which
position?
part, yeah, I assume it's a clerk. Nobody told me.
Well, I need to
Well,
go
how
to
can you-
somebody with this question
How
to
can you,
clarify it.
how do you come up with somebody?
I'm trying to clarify whether it is, because I've heard in the past
Yeah.
how the tax office works as a team, and in
Yeah.
fact, you said it again tonight. And if that is the case, if you have cross duties because the aggregate of things going on different times of the year, then I'm assuming in order to produce the functions that come out of your office, you're talking about maybe not just solely the reduction in one position. In fact, if you are reducing that number, you may be reducing across the entire spectrum. I'm not sure. I just need to know whether or not it's necessarily just a clerk position we're talking about. And can someone answer that if you cannot? Is it solely relegated to a clerk position that we're talking about here?
Help me out here, Jeff, maybe you can, and I think this is going to go where you're kind of leaning on, Lois. That 64,000 and then whatever it is, 868, was that a figure that came from Keystone, that they claimed that's what they could save us? Was that the
No.
issue? Or, yeah, if you would.
No. As we were doing the budget process, the finance director had put together a workflow analysis to divide up, and just to see staffing patterns and workflow analysis of the tax department to see if there's savings available, since we did do the earned income tax. And the tax department did provide us a breakdown of staff function. So what we've done, as we took a look at their allocation of work, what would it be to take the delinquent earned income tax and local service tax out? Then there was there'd be a surplus of labor to allocate. That labor was then reallocated throughout. So to say clerk, assistant tax collector, it was basically a full-time equivalent that we came up with. So it was an FTE, and that's where the savings came through.
Okay. All right. I
So
mean,
that was our figures then,
Yeah.
64,000.
Yeah, it was our internal figures based on a work analysis provided by the tax department.
Based on information that came from the tax department, is that correct?
That's not
Yes.
totally true. Yeah, I agree with what
I have a
you just said.
question. Why are we outsourcing any taxes? I mean, we have a tax
Well,
office.
I don't know what it is. It's kind of premature right now, even, because,
I mean, why do we have a tax office
first of
if
all,
we're going to outsource?
I didn't lose the LST, the local service tax. I haven't lost it. I'm still doing the work.
If I can
Can you
finish.
explain Act 32, where we
Yeah,
have
Act
no
32.
choice? I
Act
mean, we have no,
32,
that
yeah.
had nothing to do with us. That wasn't a choice.
That wasn't a choice
Correct.
on
So
your
can you
part.
explain that, because maybe
That's
that'll help
just that
him.
particular tax.
Yeah, the state decided
But why
that-
would we outsource the delinquent tax and the IET?
the
LSD.
LST. I am not,
Whatever.
I didn't, right now, it hasn't been outsourced to anybody. It's still the function of the tax
Do we
department.
currently outsource delinquent real estate?
Burkheimer.
Burkheimer.
Burkheimer does.
Okay, so maybe you could explain that we currently do that. I'm just trying to help you answer
Yeah.
some of your questions. That we currently do outsource to Berkshire.
No, you don't. They are the delinquent tax collector
Right.
for that.
But
Yeah.
that's mandated.
That's part of the, yes, it's,
It's mandated that we use Burkheimer for the
you can sign a
delinquent.
contract on it.
It's not
yes.
mandated.
It's not
a
mandated. We.
Right, no, you can
we-
use
we
anybody you want.
outsource it.
Yeah,
We outsource it. We're not required like Act 32.
no.
That's what we're trying to, we're kind of having everyone.
Right, under Act
understand.
32, we are required by
mandated
state
under-
statute.
Mr. Fulkerson.
Oh, yeah, that's
Okay,
correct.
Mr. Fulkerson, then what you're saying is there would be no savings by outsourcing.
Not under the LST, no. There's too many other reasons why you should keep the LST inside the department. Now, I don't,
Mr. Fulkerson, I have a question about.
Yeah.
On your second page, whenever you mentioned your top bullet, the Act 32 contract, which has no budget restraints for postage or printing costs, is something I've asked a couple times, I was curious about. Is that just our contract with Keystone, or is that all all the different municipalities that use, through Act 32, is there essentially no budget restraint for postage and printing? So by that, the way I'm reading, and correct me if I'm wrong, we really don't know what that cost is for postage and printing.
Not at the present time.
So we know, say, in our tax office, let's say we send out a reminder to people, for people to pay their tax, or a voucher every quarter. We know the postage, we know the printing. Now theoretically, Keystone, or whoever we'd outsource to, they could choose to mail out 20 pieces of reminders, full gloss, to every household because it's a blank check. Is that?
Well, they wouldn't do that.
I know they wouldn't, but
That's-
do we not know but we do not know the exact costs, though?
Not really, I don't.
I just
To
have
my
concerns about the-
knowledge, no, you don't know the exact cost.
But we will at the end of at some point.
You,
at the
in
end of the
some
year.
point down the road, they will tell you, and they'll show you.
So you said that we have a contract with you for Act 5, or for
Yes,
Act
you do.
511.
Yes.
Therefore, if there's an Act 511 contract that we have in place, then there must be a fee associated with that.
Yes, it is.
Okay, so if we, part of the monies that we could save then are the additional fees that we're paying currently under the contract that we have with you.
Yeah, you can.
Okay. So there potentially is more than a $64,000 savings.
I don't think so.
Okay.
I only said that they're,
Well, talking about the Act 32, and Susan, you and I are deeply involved in that, as you well know. There is a contract that they cover a certain amount of the postage as we do as well. Now, if there's extra mailings that need to go out, it would be on the entities themselves. In other words, Monroeville and all the other 42 or 4 or whatever it is, entities in Monroeville. So there is some unknown on that. Now, I assume that if this LST and delinquent tax, if this council would decide to go that route, which I hope they would not, and I'll get into that in a minute or so, I still think that the cost savings by your breakdown, unless Susan or somebody or Jeff, you can dispute that, if there's additional cost on there, we're not really saving,
OPEB.
Oh, I hear you.
OPEB costs associated with these dollars. That,
But we're also forgetting this too, again, it's not a great idea to outsource everything. I'm not disagreeing that maybe we need to take a
there are
look
at least 3 cities, Mr. Mayor, in the United States who have outsourced 100% of their services, including a municipality in Georgia that was founded without creating any services.
Well,
They outsourced 100% of everything except for the municipal manager, the secretary, and the council.
Well, let me just
That
put it
makes
this
it
way
right.
to you. Let me just finish.
Sure does.
Let me just say what I'm going to say, and I hear you, Bern. If you think that's a great idea, maybe you need to move there. Monroeville likes their services. I mean, I've talked to way more residents that like the services that we have. And let's talk about our tax office. We have a lot of seniors that come in and ask questions of each of our staff members there, especially all 4 of them. They like that personal service. Do you really think we'll get the same personal service with Keystone? No, we will not. They're not even in Monroeville. They don't have anything in Monroeville. Right now, if you have a question on your taxes, you can walk in that office and get the answer by either Liz or Pat or the 2 clerks. Okay? Let's think about the residents. Let's think about how much they actually use that. I've been in Pat's office many times, as you know. I like to come in sometimes, I'll have a cup of coffee with them before I go upstairs. Residents are in there every day asking questions, and these folks step up to the plate and take care of them. This is your call, council. I have no vote in this, but I would recommend highly that you not cut these positions, send the LST or the delinquent to Keystone. You're not going to get the same service. You're not.
Can I ask one question?
Sure.
I always believe no question is stupid. What is Act 32? I don't have a clue what that is.
that was the State Act
Keep hearing it,
32
by the way.
that they decided to streamline the earned income tax collections,
Mhm.
and which was a good move. And what all the other counties have 1 collector. Allegheny County has 4, which only comes out to 2. Keystone has part of it, and Jordan has the other part.
Yeah, it was mandated by the state, Jim.
That was
I'll use
totally
it.
Well, I just
mandated.
have another, you indicate that there are people that come in and ask questions. Real estate is, you're elected to collect that.
Yeah.
There's nothing, and people might, I'm assuming a lot more would come in about their real estate taxes. We're talking about delinquent earned income tax. Do you get a lot of people coming in asking about that?
Yes, because we still have.
As compared to real estate?
Yes. What we have is 208, 209, and 210 and 211 in our possession at the present time. We're getting the state tape for 2009 coming in the next month. And what we'll do with that is we'll compare to our records what they have. And we'll go through that process. Once we go through that process and get the easy dollars, then we'll shift the remainder off to Berkheimer, whose contract is up in 2013 at the end of the year.
In the, like, the questions on the local service tax, I mean, how many questions do you get on that? I mean, that's kind of,
Local service, it's easy collection. That's why it's not a major
so you
work.
don't get a lot of
No,
information.
you don't. And what you do is, usually at the end of the year, people will come in for their refunds, and they won't make $12,000. It's not a hard collection. It's very easy. Because you get it from the employers, work-wise, it's not a major event. But there's so many other things that a clerk has to do. The clerk has to do all the inputting of all the licenses and all the business privilege. Now,
Your business privilege, we're not talking anything about that.
well, no, but who's going to do that, Diana? A person still has to, a union person still has to enter that information.
And with the, I mean, when I actually called Jeff on this before, and I asked him, I said, do you feel comfortable with how people are split up with what, that it could be done? I mean, can't you look at that and see?
I don't, nobody ever came down my department and asked me that.
Well, I think that we get those numbers from the tax department themselves on what percentage they do.
No, what that, Diane, I want to clarify that.
I mean,
Back 2 months ago, 3 months ago, we were asked at that period of time by Mrs. Workman what percentage we were working on at that period of time. I informed Susan at that period of time that this is not the way it's going to be come 2013. But she was insistent that I do this. I said it is not going to be correct. But I don't know, maybe, I can't understand one thing about this whole process about the Keystone. I had last year, Mrs. Workman with the old manager, they wanted to get rid of the LST. They wanted to get rid of the delinquent taxes. So we came in, we discussed it again with council, we worked with council, they said, all right, we're not going that way. Then again, you wonder about this stuff, and so you don't really know the problems. And then Mrs. Workman comes along and she says, oh, you're collecting too much money in the EIT. I want Keystone to look better. So I'm going to switch the budget. So she switched the budget from we were responsible for 25% of that $6,000. She said, oh, I want Keystone to look good, so we're going to transfer a little bit more to their responsibility. I said, I can't understand this, but I said, all right, to be working with everybody else, I said, all right. And then again, our numbers were up again. We were collecting more than was anticipated. So she said, all right, let's try to get Keystone a little bit better, because we don't want Keystone to look bad. I said, all right, let's do this. I said, I don't mind making Keystone look good, because I think they're going to be working all right. So she did. And then all of a sudden, comes May and June, I went on a vacation. I come back, I wrote you the letter. My numbers were changed. I'm going, what is this? Why are we doing it? Let Keystone be Keystone. If they collect good money, so be it. We're not putting a roadblock up. But I'd be doggone, why are you condemning this department and trying to make LST go to Keystone? I don't get it. I really don't get it. It's amazing to me. I don't know what people's motivation is. I know that Mrs. Workman gets paid from TCC. I know she gets paid from the municipality. Maybe she has a conflict of interest. I don't know this. I don't know what motivates people to be So,
Not really appropriate, is it?
Yeah, I agree.
I mean, you really
You
need
know,
to
we
stop
need
this.
to-
well, you asked me a
Mr.
question,
Mayor.
and I would tell you that.
The bottom line is, we have your paperwork. I think everybody's, well, I'm not.
Well, I have another question.
Yeah, go right ahead, Diane.
About 2 years ago, I came in and you talked about doing work for other
Yes.
entities. And I heard about it again, and we kind of said, go for it.
And we-
Where is it?
Well, you said that in November.
Yeah, where is it? I mean, if I was trying to keep my
I'm
security,
trying to-
I'd have been having it here, I'd had the stuff done, and I heard about it over a year ago. So
What-
where's the information to do this? Why aren't you doing it? Why isn't it
Well,
done?
we were trying to do it, Diane.
Okay, I heard about that over, not just this November,
No.
but a year ago.
A year ago, we had it. We almost had it. It was, and we also discussed that. And you, to refresh your mind, we had it on Mr. Little's desk.
I don't see what's on Mr. Little's
I know,
desk.
and neither do I.
But don't refresh my mind, I don't know anything about Mr.
Neither do I.
Little's desk.
Well, anyway, it was on his desk,
Okay.
and it was there. And he put it on the side, and he didn't do anything with it. You don't believe me, you can ask.
So you presented it to the manager and
Yes.
it wasn't carried any
Right.
further?
What wasn't presented to the manager, and why would it be presented to the manager that you don't report to if you only report to council?
First of all, he had to sign the agreement that McKeesport would go along with us. And I do report to council, and I do tell them.
So why didn't you ask us about it?
Well, I did tell you.
Why didn't you ask all of council to approve it if you report to us, is what he's saying?
Well, I
Right,
would.
that's exactly what I'm
Why
saying.
didn't you then?
We did. We talked about this. There was
Why
not,
didn't you come to a council meeting and present it and say, I want to do this, council approve it?
we did
When?
last year. Council did not.
You know what, counsel, that's water under the bridge. What Diane's issue to you is, Pat, and I guess she's reiterating that, again, maybe you need to reach out some more. I'm sure you're doing that. Maybe if you can give us a report for maybe next month or the 2 months from now or whenever.
There's no
it will be,
problem.
On any progress that you're doing. Is that a fair statement?
Well, if there was
I
no
mean,
problem.
I've heard about it for a year and a half, is what I'm saying. I would have had it done here. I
Well,
would do it to save the department.
But you know what, though,
so-
Diane, in defense of
I
Mr.
mean,
Fulkerson.
I don't want you to put words in my mouth, because that's not.
No,
what
I
I'm
wouldn't.
saying.
Well, let me just say this to you. Keystone also is chasing all the LSTs, all the delinquent taxes in our 44 or 45 entities. So there isn't like there's not competition out there. There's a lot of competition out there, and that's throughout the whole county.
I have a simple question.
Sure.
If we are so
Nothing
much
simple.
better, if we are so much better at tax collection, if we are so much better at dispatch, if we are so much better at these things where there is heavy competition, why is it that when we reach out to people and try to get them to do the business with us instead of the competition, we're told that the competition is better at securing that business?
I don't think
Nobody
that's
said
true.
that.
You just said that
No, I
Keystone
said
is
there
reaching
is
out and they're doing a better
Excuse
job.
it.
No,
How
I
do you
didn't.
think,
You
how
didn't hear
did,
what I said.
how did you
I said
think
there's
we got
competition
Wilkins?
out there.
How did you think we got Wilkins, by the way?
I'm trying not to, but don't put words in my mouth.
How do you think we got Wilkins, Mr. Byrne?
Well, you know what, folks, Pat, let's just move on. Anything else, any other questions for Mr.
That's up to
Fulkerson?
Diana.
I apologize to our public here and to our public listening for
I
going
would
off
only make
subject.
one more comment, Mr.
Sure.
Mayor, and that was, I recall last year that when LST was discussed, there was reason for you to say, well, we want to at least put this off. So it implied that eventually it could.
Yeah,
I remember that.
that's correct.
Any other questions for Mr. Fulkerson? Thank you, sir.
You
Georgianne, you said you wanted to come on up? Please state your name for your record and your address, if you would, please.
Georgiana Woodhall, 4560 Broadway Boulevard. And I happened to be looking through the newspaper, and I know that you understand that any time a piece of property is purchased by a nonprofit and is off the tax books, that's not only going to affect your budget this year, but it will affect your budget every year for years to come. And I saw in the real estate that Times Express, January 3rd, 2013, Ann Lewis, trustee, sold property at 400 Oxford Drive to UPMC for $5,040,000. And I want to know if that property is going to be off the tax books. Like the property at the, was purchased, the Palace Inn, which is now the UPMC East. Do you know if that property is going to be coming off the tax books?
We don't know that.
Well, I'd like you to find out.
I can tell you that I work there.
At 400?
Yes.
Okay, well, I need someone on council to find out if that's going to remain on the tax books.
Mr. Silka, if you would, please.
In addition to that, I happen to be driving down Northern Pike and past where it connects to 22, and there's like a small, which I thought was a plaza there, and I looked at the sign, and I believe it said UPMC Orthopedic, and I'd like you also to check to see
But we need
if...
to stay on the agenda item.
It is an agenda item. This is in
Okay.
reference to the budget, Mayor.
Okay, well, you didn't
This-
really say that.
This will affect the budget. If it comes off the tax books, any of these properties, not just UPMC, but any nonprofit, this is going to, as I said, it will affect the budget for years to come. And the reason, I heard you, Mr. Silka stated that he received, we were going to be receiving Monroeville $75,000 from UPMC. Is that correct?
Correct.
Okay, I know you haven't lived here very long, Mr. Silka, but when that property was purchased, over $200,000, those combined properties, over $200,000 was off the tax book. So even though $75,000 sounds like a lot of money, to me, it's an insult.
I understand that, but at the same time, you can't stop people from purchasing property.
No, you can't, but well, let me put it to you this way. I've got put on the Planning Commission in April, and for 10 months, I have asked for information regarding, there was a committee set up, the Modernization of Zoning Regulations Committee, and on that committee, and these are from the minutes, so you know, there was a committee set up. Bob Ratcher, that's our zoning attorney, Chelsea Dice, Shelley Cottonbaugh, Dave Cooker, Jamie Story. I looked through all these minutes over and over again because large portions of commercial property around Monroeville are in a new zoning draft ordinance, have been changed to medical office. And I have asked for 10 months that Mr. Shufo and the Planning Commission Chair have Chelsea Dice and Mr. Ratcher explain to me why you would take commercial property, and I'm talking about the plaza where McGinnis's is, the plaza where D'Annunzio's restaurant is, going down Northern Pike, all the way down Northern Pike, the plaza where the Gateway Grill is. Now, I don't know who owns these properties, and all the way down 48 South, and including, I believe, part of Gateway School District property. I have read this and tried to, there is nothing in these minutes to justify zoning this property medical office. I don't know who was behind it. But I'm not getting any information back on that. And that could adversely affect Monroeville in many different ways. And I don't even know that these property owners that own this property have any idea that this is sitting in a zoning draft ordinance, and that their properties have right now, if this does not change back to commercial property, then that's not good. That's not going to be good for us. And I'd like the members of council to find out, because as I said, I can't find out. I've been asking for 10 months why all this commercial property has been rezoned to medical office. And I'd also intend to get in touch with our county councilman. And also, perhaps the solicitor might be able to explain to me, because I have looked at the State Enabling Act, and I can tell you that this is not the direction that we should be going in, changing this as, to medical office. It's almost like looking, maybe it can be explained simpler. It would be like taking that plaza and just, instead of commercial, it being listed as commercial, it would be just maybe listed as restaurant. So when somebody logs onto your website, and they look at this, it's going to be very misleading. And I'm very concerned about properties being purchased and taken off the tax books. But even more, I'm more concerned about how this came about. Because I can tell you, as long as I'm going to sit on a planning commission and any other board or commission in municipality of Monroeville, we're going to do things the right way. We are not going to permit, and I'm not accusing anybody, but I can't find answers as to how this got changed. I don't know who was behind it. But I can tell you that I'm not going to sit on any board and commission or sit back as a resident and a taxpayer and allow anybody, any business or anybody to come into the community and to change our zoning ordinances. For
I don't think
whatever.
anybody has that authority
Well, I
to
don't
do
know
that.
what happened. I don't know what happened.
I mean,
or how
that's
it got
certainly,
changed.
go ahead, Mr. Schufa, you're going to say something?
Just mention a point of clarification. This new zoning ordinance is in draft form,
It is a draft.
and you, as a planning commission member under the MPC, are required to submit this draft form for council at public hearings.
Correct.
We've been working on this ordinance for almost 5 years now, and you've been involved since April of last year. We discussed with you in past meetings that I was also concerned about changing the classification of that zoning district, which is a good portion of the commercial property within the municipality, and changing that to a medical office, which potentially could attract those type of facilities. We were going to address this issue and possibly change that back to commercial prior to submitting the finalized zoning ordinance for council's approval. So this point of this property has not been changed to this point. It's being considered to be changed to that categorization of a new zoning district. So council, just to let you know that there'll be a draft form presented to you hopefully by summer, and this medical office district could potentially be eliminated as part of that new draft zoning ordinance.
Thank you, Mark. And you know what,
Well,
we
Mark, the
really
only
got
thing
way
is-
off the subject
Well, no,
here.
this, Mayor, actually, this affects the budget. And as I said, it
It
will
hasn't
affect
affected the
budgets.
budget at all. This is in a
future
draft form, so we're off the beaten path again.
Well, that's your opinion, but we're
Well, I'm
really
the chair,
not.
and that's just the way it
We're
is.
really not. But thank you for your time.
Thank you.
May I make one comment?
Please.
Georgianne, you indicated about the community benefits agreement and the sum of 75,000. That was just, we've been working on a big plan with them, and because the county started to address the status of nonprofits, our plan with regards to UPMC kind of got on hold, so they kind of said, we still want to work with you, we're delaying it, and they did that in place of it. Not that that's going to be the amount, but they were attempting to do something until we can get a finalized, and I don't want to use the bad word, I'll say community benefits agreement, I won't say the bad word, that I'm not allowed to say. That they plan to get something concrete for, a certain amount for a certain years of time, but the county delayed it. So they did that as a good faith effort to show they're still in.
I
do
just had
something.
one other comment. In looking through these minutes, it actually looked, and I don't know whether I just missed it, but Mark, were you working on it from 2005?
Folks, this is way off the subject.
Okay, well,
now.
I'll
We're
let
not
it go.
going to
I'll let it
address
go,
this
Mayor.
tonight.
For now.
And just to add on to Diane's comment, and I promise we'll get moving real quickly, we've been working on the community benefits program for almost a couple of years, and it's going to work out very well to Monroeville's benefit. They want to be good neighbors, they want to work within the community, and I think it's a good asset. Anybody else would like to address council on public agenda items only? Seeing none, we'll move over to new business, and that's 12-5-ST. If our applicant is here, please state your name for the record, and please present yourself. The Planning Commission does recommend approval with conditions. Please sign in and state your name for the record, gentlemen.
Good evening, Council and Mayor. My name is Jack Finnegan. I represent the applicant. As Mayor indicated, this has to do with the property on 4121 Monroeville Boulevard. It's the old Sims property. There is proposed a site plan to further develop the property as an ambulatory surgical center. It's a building approximately 40,800 square feet. It's in two phases.
I got it, Jack.
You got it?
I got it.
You making a motion?
You're getting me out of order here.
First phase is the ambulatory surgical center, about 27,000 square feet. The second phase will most likely be medical offices. We're here for the first phase. Do we have a picture? Oh, good, we have a picture. We had a pretty good hearing at the Planning Commission, and they recommended approval with conditions. Certainly, if I don't think there's any legal questions involved, but certainly if there are, I'd be happy to field them. There's adequate parking there, and part of it is, and I don't want to jump into, by the way, this is Dave Mickey, he's from Astorino, and he's the project.
Well, we're going to ask him then state his name for record when you're done
he'll
there,
do
Jack,
that.
so go ahead.
I'll be short.
Do your thing.
Okay. Is the picture up there? This is the first phase of development. There's a small portion of the property up there that's for an exit and some equipment, I guess, is going to be up there. But I'll let Dave explain that. The Planning Commission, there's a sidewalk added to it, but the parking is adequate. We have everything. We think we have everything that's there, and we think we've addressed all the Planning Commission's concern and additional requests for that matter. So if you have any questions, they're legal, give me a call, okay? Other than that, we'll
Please
turn it
state your
over to
name,
Dave.
sir, and your business.
My name's David Mickey. I'm the project manager with Astorino, and we are the architects for the owner on this development.
Council, any questions for either one of our gentlemen here on this item before you? This was discussed. Go ahead, I'm
Yeah.
sorry.
No, I'm just, I guess confirming because my copy of Thursday night, as promised, I think the square footage has been adjusted, and so the square footage that we're looking at here is accurate for what's in front of us tonight.
That's correct.
Yeah,
It's the 27,091 is the first phase.
Okay. Yeah, I remember you said you were going to change
that
that,
was
so I
corrected.
just want to make sure that that was the correct amount.
Yes.
Any other questions or comments on this item before you? Because this was discussed at length at our work session. Seeing none, is there a motion on the floor?
Move to approve the resolution as submitted.
Second.
Roll call, Sharon, please.
Mr. Erb?
Yes.
Dr. Griesbach?
Aye.
Mrs. Drumheller?
Aye.
Mr. Johns?
Aye.
Mrs. Allison?
Aye.
Mr. Duncan?
Aye.
Mr. Ramsey?
Aye.
Good luck with your project, gentlemen.
Thank you.
Thank you, council.
Mr. Dice.
Do you want to take up ordinance number 5 first, and then you can take up, maybe you can move those people along?
That is certainly we can do it.
Then I would drop to number 5, an ordinance, amending ordinance 1443 as amended to insert specific definitions and regulations for solar photovoltaic systems.
I'll never get that permit. Right. Any other questions or comments on that? Motion on the floor.
Motion to approve.
Second?
Second.
Roll call, Sharon, please.
Mr. Erb?
Yes.
Dr. Griesbach?
Aye.
Mrs. Drumheller?
Aye.
Mr. Johns?
Aye.
Mrs. Allison?
Aye.
Mr. Duncan?
Aye.
Mr. Ramsey?
Aye.
Okay, number one there.